Hello guys, welcome back. In this video we'll take a closer look at how to create classes in Python. Essentially, classes are like building blocks of your program. They're data types that you can create, and you can come up with your own functions, methods, properties, and then access them and make your application work the way you want it to work. You can create objects to a class, use them in your program, discard them when you're done with them. But classes will still exist. Classes are basically your blueprints of your objects. If you want to know more about classes in Python, I'll leave you a link because this is not a course on Python. We're just trying to be more hands-on using this tutorial. So if you need more theoretical knowledge, I would recommend you check out the Python documentation on Python classes. One very important concept I want to cover, however, is the self keyword. We'll be using that a lot in classes in general. Self is basically an instance of the class itself. For example, in this function, we're passing self as an argument, which means we're passing the object itself to the function so it can access these properties when we send it to them. If it doesn't make sense, just wait for the demonstration and then you should have a fair idea of what that means. Coming back to classes, class names cannot be keywords, so you have to make sure that you're not using def as a class name. Usually the chance of that happening is very slim because usually the first letter of a class is capitalized just to avoid that sort of confusion, but it's not mandatory that you do that. It's just a convention. It's just a good practice that people try and follow. And yeah, let's dig in. So I've created a class already. I've called it a person. He has some possessions, he's got a bank balance, etc. So the init function is where, well, when you create an object of person class, it runs the init function. So whenever I create a new person, he will have a balance of 0 and no possessions, and we will use these functions to get his details, buy stuff for him, and if he has to borrow money, we'll use this function to borrow. This is a very basic class, and you have to make sure that the indentation is right. You can see the indentation here and also here, right, in each of the methods. So method and indentation, you might have seen me type that in the last few lessons, but with the class itself, it needs to be indented after the very first command. So here I'm creating a P1 of a person class. Note that I'm not passing anything. I could pass arguments here in the constructor function. So this function with the class name, that we haven't declared that function. It's just a convention that you use the class name with parentheses and it calls the constructor. So when we do this, automatically this should print because the init function runs on creation of an object. So we can verify that. Then I'm calling the details function with a name and age, and obviously it's gonna print my name and age over here. And then I'm printing name separately, age separately, and then I say let's buy a car, and then I'm printing the possessions. And then let's say borrow, and then I'm printing the balance. So borrow function adds to balance with the amount. Because I'm passing 200 here, it should add 200 and print 200. Similarly, when I buy a car, it's passed as an argument, and then it finds the object. Self class finds the object and finds the possessions array or possessions list and appends to that list the item you pass. So here I could say buy stuff home, right? And it should have both car and a house when I run the function. So there we go. Ran init function, so that's being run by this. So P1 details, basically it should print this line here. Then I'm printing name and age separately again, so that's 2 lines. Bought and stored car, and then bought and stored home, and then the current possessions are car and a home, and added $200 to the balance, and the current balance is $200. So very straightforward, very simple. Usually classes are very complicated because let's say if someone wants to build an application to manage contacts within a system, so each contact becomes a class, so each contact is a class, and then when you create your contacts, like you've got 300 contacts and you create them in that system, there will be 300 objects of the class contacts. So that's in a nutshell how classes work. By no means is this a complete guide to classes, because by itself the concept of classes could take me a few months to finish. So there's a very high level flyby view of how Python manages classes.
You are awesome. Now, to get your daily dosage of IT programming and automation, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Spread the word using the share button. Thank you.